Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the third series of Heal. And today we have Dr. Era Dutta with us, a formidable young mother of a 3-year-old, an esteemed council member of the Indian Psychiatric Society, and also a neuropsychiatrist at the Fortis Hospital in Kolkata. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So today we have an interesting topic on how to become a mom-tastic mom in these times. And the idea of really having this today is really to highlight not only mental health issues around mommies, but everything from conceiving a child to having a child to a mother who's raising a child, all those stages. I would love for you to highlight how moms, families, husbands, all of us as a society can support this role and grow stronger. So really need your input on strengthening our mental health care and really understanding what role it plays. So let's begin with the first question that we had. What is a mom-tastic mom?
I think I'm seeing one right in front of me. Before an explicit example. So, when
Thanks.
you
Yeah.
were talking, and this is how the topic came about in my mind, because I know you work with so many mothers, young mothers, and first time mothers, second time mothers, and I've also been dealing with a lot of women either conceived or about to conceive or already conceived in this pandemic especially. What came to my mind was that we put so much emphasis on only the children, and as a parent, I'm always looking for tips on what can I do to engage my child today. What can my child eat better, what can they do in school, and how can I do homeschooling. But
Yeah.
so many of us mothers sadly just ignore or kind of forget themselves amidst all of this chaos, that
Mm.
we are the ones who created them, and we
Yeah.
bore the spirit and made them into whatever they are today and whatever they will be in the
Absolutely.
future.
Yeah.
So it's very important to emphasize that all of us are momtastic moms, which is basically like fantastic moms.
Absolutely.
And yet I believe this idea is really hyped up. That's what I believe, at least. I would love to hear your inputs. Social media has started putting so much pressure on mothers on being these perfect mommies, super mommies who can cook,
Yeah.
who can cook, who can draw, who can do homeschooling, who can counsel their children, who can feed their children for sure, and so much more,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
what do you think social media is doing to us as mothers?
It's very interesting that you say that because there's this whole peer pressure and nobody knows the real story, right? We can't get into anyone's homes to see what the real mundane boringness of that life is. It's all for the social media that's happening as a performance at that time, and it
Right.
gives rise to a lot of anxiety, I feel. And the few things I want to unearth with you today are: number one, guilt on am I good enough as a mother, am I momtastic enough,
Yes.
the sleep issues that come around trying to juggle so many things, and just in general, mothers fall prey to anxiety all the time. So I'd really love for you to elaborate that on what is it that makes our roles so anxiety ridden.
Absolutely. And I think part of it is us, part of it is the society, part of it is genetics as well. We're wired to be mothers. So our instincts, our oxytocin levels are very different than men. But the momtastic concept really, this is something I keep highlighting to people, and I keep telling them, Jane do, chalta hai, it's okay, accept it. And I say this a lot. Some people
Yeah,
probably find it a little too much. But self acceptance is rule number one, according to me.
yeah,
If you're
yeah.
kind to yourself, if you're kind to how you treat and deal with yourself, I think you'll
Hmm.
reflect that in your parenting. You'll reflect that in the way you talk to your child. And the good enough mother is actually a very interesting psychological concept. So when you talk about this concept, and we all want to be the best moms, right? So the
Yeah,
mug that we drink coffees out of says my best mom, not my good enough mom, right? I wish they should make that. I think they should
yeah,
make some.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
so the idea is everybody wants to be perfect, at least on paper. Yet we realize how ridiculous that sounds. And the more we try to be perfect, I'm sorry, the more pressure we put on our children to be perfect. So
Yeah.
good enough is actually a very good concept. They did experiments on children, and they realized that when children saw a little bit of faulty parenting, or parents making mistakes or slip ups, or not
Hmm.
always being there, they actually adjusted much better, simply because that's how real life is. That when we go out in the world, everything is not going to be perfect. I mean, we're
Yeah,
living in different times, so you can clearly see everything is not perfect. Whereas
yeah,
you project to be this perfect mom or this perfect parent, everything needs to be like this, the child starts believing this is the reality, and that's detrimental to them, to be honest. So being good enough and making small falls obviously is a good thing. You do
Yeah.
that, your child would see that this is okay, and the child would forgive you, you would forgive yourself, and
Yeah.
just loving, accepting, kindness kicks in automatically. So I think
Yeah.
we should also have good enough mommy merchandise being sold on websites.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when I'm working on, prenatal and postnatal aspects of nutrition, self-image issues, the lactation a mother is doing, the whole thing builds into whether the quantity of the milk is enough or not. Am I spending enough time with my child? Am I bonding enough? Even when that child barely understands anything again other than holding. And I say to every single mom, just like you're saying, look at the mirror and say, I am enough. Whoever I am enough.
Absolutely. I say that. I say that to them that, just say, I love myself, and that is the start of it. That's very important. So what you do is really important, I suppose, making young
Yeah,
mothers.
at the end of the day, we have to reassure all of us, ourselves, and people we work with. And this is a general story for mothers across the board at all times. But I think the pandemic has worsened the situation. And what are you experiencing in your practice as in terms of the pandemic and mothers?
So anxiety is definitely taken off a lot.
Mm,
A lot of women who were planning their IVF cycles just stopped, simply
right.
thinking, what, pandemic is going on, let me not do it right now. It's not a good time. A lot of
Mm,
women who conceived have started second guessing their idea that, oh God, I've conceived, I'm happy, but then I'm so conflicted that this is not the best time to have a baby.
mm, mm, mm,
People doubt their ideas that should we even plan to have a baby right now. So my advice to all of them is always bad news never has a good time, right? And you can never
yeah.
predict bad news. This is bad news for all of us. If something is affecting all of us, then I think we need to make more peace with it and understand that it's not different for you, it's not different for me. Had it been a
Yeah.
unique situation just to happen to me, like, if you lose a loved one, that's only one person's life. Whereas this is very different. So if you've
Yeah.
conceived, you're about to conceive, if you want to conceive, and you think it's a good time for you, it is a good time for you. It has
Yeah.
very little, and of course, pandemic, you're going to be more careful. So there's nothing wrong with it. But don't let the pandemic stop your life, please.
Yeah.
That's one advice I give out to everybody,
Yeah.
especially young.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the WHO also has these wonderful guidelines for new moms to really reassure them. And in some ways, it's a good time because mothers are isolated. So there's not too
Yes.
much interference. There isn't many people putting pressure on moms. And also, it's the mom's milk that is essential for the baby and that really protects the baby, the mom's presence. So all of these things, I think, strengthen the case for birth, the case for moms, and for them to be anxiety free. So,
Women in
but mental
general,
health,
yeah, sorry. I said babies in general are a lot more tougher than we think of them to be, We think of them to be
absolutely,
really fragile, but babies are so tough, they're tougher than us put together. So that's
yeah,
something that mothers need to understand as well. So COVID times, children, yes, they are getting COVID positive. I agree.
yes.
Children are being born to COVID positive mothers. They're bouncing back pretty well. I'm not saying everybody, but numbers are good. Numbers are
The
promising.
numbers are good, and even for little children, because I see mothers always saying this that their little child and literally closing them in a room, and I say that the evidence doesn't suggest that we need to go that far. We just have to be safe and hygienic and follow the protocols.
I agree.
So definitely, but mental health plays a very very important role at this time because that is really how what we act out of based on where we are in our minds and our mental health status at that time. So, how does one approach this? How does one start to think of really balancing that space? Whether you are a new mother, you're a mother of a 5-year old, you're a mother of a 3-year old, I'm a mother of a 10-year old. How do we start seeing the role and making sure that every single day we pay attention to this just like we pay attention to our nutrition, our mental nutrition? How do we do that?
So I have another famous way of saying this that I say that we brush our teeth every day. So that's dental hygiene, right?
Yeah.
What about your mental hygiene? What are you doing for your mental hygiene? And it's very similar to what you just said in different words that your nutrition and your mental nutrition. So we need to first of all understand what mental health is. Most people only understand the lack of thereof. Like the lack of mental health is when they start understanding, oh my god, I'm depressed, oh my god, I'm anxious, oh my god, this is happening, I'm not sleeping well. They don't
Yeah.
look at the pillars of good life: sleep,
Hmm.
nutrition, exercise, balanced diet. So what we need to understand is go back to the basics and
Mm.
understand the EBCs, that mental health is for everyone. So stop
Yeah.
discriminating. Mental health is essential. So start teaching your children right from when they're little.
Mm.
Talk about emotions. Allow them to address their emotions. You know, we always are saying,
Yeah.
"Tumne ye kiya, tab maine ye kiya." But "Tumne ye kiya," how did it make me feel? So
Yeah.
feelings to be talked about as mothers as well. You know, if we
Yeah.
scold our child, we're always telling them what they did wrong. We're barely highlighting how it made us feel.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
talking about mental health at home, in schools, in curriculum, I think would be a good start. In the pandemic, per se, I think taking out a few minutes, no matter if you're a male, female, a child, an adult, whatever age group you are,
Mm.
a few minutes every day for yourself is very important. And again,
Right.
rounding back to moms, since they're my favorite, since they're super moms, but they don't understand their superpowers. But as moms, I think we can do a lot.
Yeah.
That's we can set out time rather than feeling guilty. We can actually use that time for ourselves and feel great. So my mantra is very simple: do things that you love, do things that bring you happiness, and do
Mm.
something creative as well, so that you feel this sense of dopamine rush. That okay, I did something new, I did something out of the box, I did something that I didn't only see on social media, but
Yeah.
also I maybe baked, or I maybe cooked, or I maybe just tidied up my place differently. So
Yeah.
just little things.
Yeah. And I'm happy you mentioned dopamine because it's something that we feel a rush from even if we play video games, if we have dark chocolate. And a lot is not said about balancing hormones. We think of hormones as something that's gone off, like you said, when it goes off. But we don't know that we have the tools within our mind and body to actually work on these hormones. And
Absolutely.
I think you can shed some more light on what these hormones are and a few examples, if we could, on how any mother at any stage can work on these hormones.
Right. So the prime ones are obviously serotonin. That's your happy chemical. And I always say, happy chemical will make you feel this sudden urge or sudden rush of happiness and euphoria, which you'll immediately know. So when people say, how will I know I'm happy? And I say, you'll know it. You'll tell me. The second is oxytocin, which you get when you hug a loved one, when you get kisses from your little ones, or even animals or pets for that matter. And then there's, endorphins, which obviously when you run on a treadmill or do something high impact, again, very similar to serotonin. And don't forget the adrenaline, which I was talking about when I was speaking about anxiety, which is, by the way, a good chemical. So a lot of
Yeah,
people only think, like you said in the Audi terms, that adrenaline here. So okay, what, too much adrenaline is bad. It's making me anxious. But again,
yeah,
all are super important. They're very, very
yeah,
important. How we control or titrate or generate our own, and dopamine, of course, you already mentioned dopamine. How
mm,
we
mm,
generate or titrate any neurochemicals in our body is just a balance. So, a balanced diet, a balanced sleep, and just a balanced routine. And those are super important, because if you keep doing it consistently, they
mm,
titrate themselves. Yes, I can be
right.
sad one day. Yes, I can be
Mm,
anxious one day. But then, if I keep doing these things, they kind of balance themselves out.
yeah,
Nutrition is a very important role to play. So certain foods,
yeah,
like you said, dark chocolate makes us feel all nice and fuzzy, and
yeah,
nuts and almonds, they have omega-3 fatty acids, which again
yeah,
make these things. Chamomile tea can make you feel sleepy and oozy and warm again. It feels like a
right,
blanket. So
right.
that has a big role to play for sure. Exercise,
Yeah,
diet,
yeah,
sleep. These
yeah,
are just three pillars that I say, if you have these three, you're not going to need too much after that.
yeah, yeah. And just like we are connecting right now, and I think that's
Exactly.
the best way to get our serotonin going. So
Yeah. And
these connections
I
between
do
mothers as well.
right, right. What do you think
Yeah.
about the social isolation? Are you finding it as a problem for most people these days, especially for young adults or new mothers?
There are two aspects that I find that some are getting more aware of themselves. They have the time to go within, do many, many mindfulness practices. And of
Hmm.
course, we are there to guide them into these practices.
Hmm.
Some are struggling with home environments because they've never spent so much time with families which have not been supportive. So they have escaped that unsupportedness because the families were not around. Whereas some have a supported family and they're feeling even more loved. So I think both situations are there, and we're having to work with both kinds. Some more fortunate and some not. So which is where some of the mental health issues are getting stemmed, where we do have more time spent with supported families, and some of them are getting exaggerated when we have the unsupported families.
The
So
business
these are the
very
two
nice
kinds.
thing is that mental health is getting highlighted by people. In
Yeah,
both of them, like you said, people are getting self-aware, or that they're finding that connecting with a loved one is harder. So they may want to work on the relationship as well, right? And
absolutely.
the fact that we're focusing on trying to evolve out of here. So the pandemic is outside, but within ourselves and within our homes, we're working on so many things. That way, I think,
Yeah, also I want to highlight that yes, you say work on loved ones and things, but there are some of us who are in unfortunate situations,
yes,
you know,
yes,
and women do tend to find that in India where they are in unfortunate home situations, and at that time they really have to become resilient because sometimes with a small child or a baby, it's not so easy in a pandemic to say that I'm walking out of here.
oh no,
It's not an
absolutely,
easy decision to make. And
absolutely.
learning to live with your situation, and like we said, saying I'm enough and generating those hormones and happiness and keeping sanity from within is where the real challenge is, because everything outside of them is completely chaotic, completely almost like a conflict to them every single day. So
Correct.
those are the really hard ones for mothers raising children in families.
Especially in the pandemic, where you can't really get out. Agreed.
Yeah, yeah,
100%.
yeah. So I think the pandemic is the hardest on those people for sure. Of course, you and I can speak from a mom perspective because we are women and mothers. So
Yeah.
yes, all the men out there, the families out there, we are not necessarily in the same boat, but we are in the same boat as mummies, and we understand and empathize with them. So
It's interesting
yeah.
time for kids as well, for us as well, I think. We're all evolving.
Absolutely. So I feel like we read a lot about parenting. We see a lot of images on social media of people, but parenting is a hands-on job. It's more like everyday challenges, and there's very little to get us ready for that. Go to school and we get ready for a lot of things. We get ready for university. We do hands-on training for business also. Really, really practical stuff on making products if you're doing business training, or doing if you're training to be a doctor, you do practical training there. But all of us have to become parents, and there's really no practical training there. People say it should be natural.
Mhm.
So how do we start working on that? Because clearly we know it's not as natural as we believe it to be, and there are a lot of roadblocks that come
True. I wish they had a degree for it. Most of them fail in the practical aspect. But that's what that I think some amount of it is definitely, on the go, very instinctive, and it should be because every
in.
kid is
Yes.
different. Every family is different. Like you just described, everybody's situation is different. So no
Yeah.
two families or no two parents are alike. No two parenting styles are alike. Your style, my
Right.
style, it will be very, very different. But
Right.
at saying that, I do believe that there should be some foundational understanding that we are given even before having children. Because
Hmm.
we get into this uncharted territory without a roadmap.
Yeah.
And not having a roadmap is not a good idea. You get lost, right?
Yeah.
So having a parenting plan, sitting down with your partner, if you are in that situation where your partner and you can be on the same page,
Yeah.
deciding what this would look like, what major milestones of the child when these issues crop up, what that would look like. And I don't mean to say imagine 20 years from now, but just maybe 3 to 5 years is a good idea. So that way, a little bit of planning is necessary. A little bit
Yeah.
of reading up is necessary. I always encourage people to read. You should read. There's so many books out there on parenting. Read everything and make
Yeah.
that your own. That is my advice. Nothing should
Yeah.
be textbook because it can't be. If I read a certain parenting style and I decide to adopt it in my household and it doesn't work, that's not fair. So I can maybe just maneuver it a little bit around and make it my own. That's important. And similarly, instinctive, yes, definitely parents are very instinctive. I think we all learn their rhythms, they learn our rhythms. So
Yeah.
for that, you know, as we evolve, they evolve. And more than us bringing up the children, I think they bring us up. They're the
Yeah.
ones who are making us grow. So be very mindful. My advice is that to mothers, especially
Yeah.
to parents when they're spending time, because you'd rather spend 10 hours with your child and
Yeah.
that would amount to nothing. Whereas you can spend maybe half an hour and that could be really nice, mindful, conscious. So that's something we should all take up.
What you said right now in terms of the quality, everyone says that what is this quality time? Because mom get into this rut of quantity of time.
Yeah.
And it's the psychology of an experience, right? Even a child growing up could have a mother who's disgruntled for 10 hours of the day and he only remembers that. He remembers her expression, her moods. And then there could be a child who spends key moments of his life seeing a mother who's excited because she's fulfilled herself. and she spent that time playing, reading, engaging, and there's very little bit of that extra, grumbling face or scolding face, and that constant rut because she's going through the day and he's seeing the whole cycle. So the psychology of the experience is you remember the expressions and the emotions
Not
you
the
attach
words.
to that time.
True. Not the words, not the time, not the quantity. I agree 100%. And so many of us make this mistake that, we feel guilty that we need to be with them 24/7. So it's almost like a helicopter mom. We need to protect them. We need to be by their side. And with due respect, we do. They require a lot of love, attention, care, kindness. But
Yeah.
if they're playing in a different room and you're sitting in another room, and it's okay if you're scrolling through social media, it's it's fine. You don't have to
Yeah.
get up, feel guilty, go there, and then irritate the child of what they were doing in their own space, which was a good thing.
Right.
They will learn self play, and now
Yeah.
you've moved them around, you've moved yourself around, and now the both of you are sitting together and wondering what to do. So
Right.
space it. That's why taking out time for yourself is very important as a mother. Taking out time with
Absolutely.
the child, taking out time with the spouse. Let's not forget that. So many of
Yeah.
us become mothers and we stop being partners. That's another issue, right?
So this is something that I'll share from 10 years ago as a mother, where
Mhm.
I had to absolutely change every single diaper of my child, and it made me feel great at that time.
Mhm.
But so many years down the line, it's if you're okay with it,
Mhm.
it's fine. But when you look at your child and say that, you have to do this because I changed every single diaper or I spent that much time, the child doesn't relate to that. You did it for your own satisfaction. And if it made you feel guilty not to do it, sometimes I feel like we all need to stop and think. Because at that time, it seems like the world will end if you let someone else do it. You need to be in control of that situation. But it's stemming from a lot of self doubt at that point. That if I don't change that one diaper, what might happen? Will I
Correct.
become a less good mommy? That guilt, I think every one of us has gone through at least 1% or 1 minute of our life as mommies. So that's why I've been prey to it, and I'm sure at some point you have felt it too.
So,
And
very interestingly, asking for help is something that I always believe is important. And asking for
absolutely,
help it takes a village to raise a child, right? And we're living in
yes,
nuclear setups, much smaller families, we're living in
yes,
smaller confined spaces. And asking for help, if your partner is helpful, you're lucky. And I tell people not everybody is lucky. In that
yeah,
case, if you can afford asking for help, external agencies also fine. Don't feel
yeah,
guilty. Because, like you said, if I am the one changing every nappy, it makes me win this magical star in my head. God knows which wall will I put it up on, right? And I'm
yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
I will smash it and say the star is nothing. So why do you change my nappy? You shouldn't have. So take up the responsibility, but definitely share it. If you have a partner, ask them for help. If you have an in-law, ask them for help. We think that
yeah,
it makes us less, but it actually makes us complete. We can get that extra 5 minutes of sleep, and that's enough, right?
absolutely, yeah, yeah,
So luckily, my partner was very helpful. I think we were both
yeah,
newbies, and we were both very
yeah,
excited to see that okay, we both can do this or not. So that was good
absolutely.
for us.
Yeah, yeah. And when we go back to this whole thing of training ourselves as parents, the interesting thing is we have books which may not be culturally appropriate sometimes.
True.
We have some stories on social media that may relate to us or not. But I think the first two resources we do have are our mothers and our in laws. And the interesting thing is that this is somehow an antagonistic relationship in India. And I always fall back and say to myself that, many of us who've chosen our husbands or had harmonious relationships, and we have companions who are supportive, like yours and mine, for example, we do need to acknowledge the fact that they did something right to raise good companions we are with. And
100%.
definitely go beyond ourselves, go beyond our ego, and find harmony in that antagonistic relationship and say that, okay, we have these two mothers, let's take the best from them, because our mothers did things that definitely messed us up, their mothers did things that messed them up, but there was something that went right, and let's discover that something that went right and find our own new recipe for parenting.
Absolutely. And the intent was always to make the best of us. So for sure, and
Yes.
that's our intent too. But I agree 100%. In India, it's such a nice medley of flavors. And it could
Yeah.
be good. You could look for support in it, or you could look at that one thing that maybe your mom or your mother-in-law did not do right and hold on to it. So I always tell people look at the bigger picture. Look at what
Absolutely.
would have happened if this wasn't there. And they always say, no, I would have been better off. And I always ask them, pause, think hard, think again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very close, and our emotions tend to blur things for us. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, logic seems to go out of the window sometimes because we are really, really tired, especially mothers, new mothers, first year, second year, and working moms. There's no sleep. There's no time to sleep. Sometimes you feel like, where do I get these 6 hours, 8 hours? There's no rest. And obviously, there is a hormonal impact to not sleeping. So,
Mhm.
how do we get mothers to start sleeping at different stages? How do we get them to understand that this is absolutely key for not only mental health, but even nutritionally? It has a huge role to play on weight management. It has a huge role to play on your skills. So how do we get to understand that better?
Sleep is so important, and most of us have ignored it through our early 20s or through our teenage, right? And that's when we start thinking that, okay, you know what, I can manage this and I can ace this. And I went through college through such
Yeah,
less sleep, then why not now? And we've caffeinated ourselves, and, we've literally just not thought about sleep as in something important. So, again, going back to the basics is important. When people understand that what wellness is, a balance of sleep, a balance of appetite, a balance of your hormones, a balance of your nutrition and relationships, going back to the basics would be one thing. Second thing, routine. And I know it sounds very mundane to people when I say the word routine. And I always tell them routine doesn't mean you need to go to bed at 10. And that's okay if you'd like to. If you would
yeah,
like to go to bed while your child is going to bed, great. But set your own routine, a realistic
yes,
one for that matter, and prioritize. People don't prioritize enough, I believe. They
yeah,
don't realize that, yes, social media is important and that is probably giving you a break, but that won't change after another 6 hours, right? Similarly, it's good to say no sometimes. There are many of us who refuse to say no and compromise on our sleep, whether it's work, like you said, work from home mamas, or, working in home mamas, or saying no to that friend or that social interaction. So
yeah,
saying no once in a while is also very good for sleep.
yeah,
Other than the basics, obviously maintaining a sleep hygiene, sleeping at almost the same time, waking up at the same time, getting your
yeah,
body tired, staying away from caffeine. These are, I would say, common sense is not common practice. That is sadly another reason.
absolutely.
Everybody knows this. Everybody knows it. You don't need a degree to say that, correct? But common sense.
I agree. But tea and coffee, like you say, it's, we know scientifically now that that evening cup of tea will almost set you back a couple of hours. And then that tea after dinner, which you're just doing as a comfort, feeling warm and fuzzy, it's going to set you back some more. And this is something that completely gets lost on us. It's mind over matter completely when it comes to caffeine. And we're all doing it. So, like you said, it's common sense, but it's not common enough.
It's not common practice. So there we come in. We tell them you can switch that up for just a warm glass of water. That's
Yeah.
where we come in. However,
Yes.
again, common sense is, they need to practice it. That's very important. But if
Yeah.
you're a mother, anxiety may be one reason, which could
Yeah.
be why you're not getting the adequate number of hours. The anxiety that, is the baby sleeping okay? Is the baby breathing okay?
Hmm.
Did I do this right? Did I finish that chore? I think in
Yeah.
that case, a lot of meditation, body scans, breathing work, cleansing,
Yes.
these really do work. Something which, again, I wish I was taught in my early 20s. I only learned in my latter half of 20s, and
Yeah.
it would have probably helped me a lot more. So it's okay, no matter when people learn. Once they learn, I
Yeah.
think practicing it is really important.
I think
And
we have a lot of tools, like you said, that, meditation. Now, I want to demystify this because the minute I say that word, mothers say we are too restless, we are too anxiety ridden. How can you expect us to empty our minds? That's impossible. And I say that there's so many interim tools. There is a visualization stage, there's a chanting stage where you can just get into what we call dhyan.
yes,
Just getting into dhyan of a thought, a visualization, a sound, wherever that takes you. And you get distracted, you come back. You get distracted, it come back. But at least you are relaxing your nervous system. And that's the key.
and that's why there's so many different kinds of meditation. People get lost
Ah,
and only fixate on transcendental meditation and think that empty your mind. Like my style
yes,
is more mindful, and I believe that mindfulness works for me. And I
absolutely.
strongly believe in preaching only what I can practice, since I can then teach it
Yeah,
with conviction. So
yeah,
mindfulness is another beautiful tool which I
yeah.
tell people. You can do it
Mm,
with the kids. You can teach
mm,
the kids much early on. You can do it yourself when you're in the bed at night, and don't count the
absolutely.
things, count the sounds, count the feelings, count the sensations, and that works wonderfully too. So I
Yeah.
wish people take up to it as a healthy lifestyle. That's another great tool for mothers to get the adequate sleep, to reduce the anxiety, to reduce the cortisol, the stress level, and
Yeah.
everything.
But I think today, both of us as practitioners can say to mommies that today is the day where you need to take that pledge and start doing this for yourselves, so that you not only change your entire being inside and outside, but also mirror that to however small or big your child is, whether it's a newborn, whether it's prenatal within the mother, whether it's a 10-year-old. Every child will mirror what the mother does. And the more mindful you are, the space outside you and inside you transforms completely.
Absolutely. Children have mirror, I mean, we all have mirror neurons, and children have them the strongest. So they're literally aping our emotions. When
Yeah.
parents bring their children to me and they say, my child is really cranky, or my child is really fussy, or my child is this way, I
Yeah.
always sit back and actually tell them, let's talk about you first. And their idea is fix them. And I say, they're not, toys or clocks that I'm going to fix. Let's talk about how you are. And they're always very, very scared of addressing how they feel personally,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
I wanted to know, and this is something probably viewers would like to know, what is your self care mantra? And I'd like to share mine as well, just to help you.
Well, I have a lot of self-care stuff going on, and I like bite-sized because I've always been a restless person to learn more, do more, and I do everything from the visualizations to sound healing, to gratitudes and affirmations, and I like doing those 3 to 5 minutes of every exercise every day. So I think I stop myself every 2 hours and do one before anything starts rising in terms of my emotions and come back to it. It could be my children, it could be house chores, it could be clients. Anything can unphase you, right? And so I'm always prepared every 2.5 hours to kind of bring me back to center.
That's really nice. It's really good. For me, it's more morning and evening as being the prime times, because I believe that what you do first thing in the morning sets you for the day, and what you do last
Absolutely.
of the night kind of sets you for the next day and also makes you realize how your day was. Otherwise, we're
Right.
so busy, we're not pausing to understand how our day was. So when we ask people, hey, hi, how are you? The answer is, I'm fine, thank you. They're not fine. They're not taking a pause, they're not
Yeah.
taking a moment, they've not reflected. So again, gratitude works really well. I think self acceptance, affirmations work really well. For me, sometimes it's as simple as just doing a night skincare routine, and that makes me feel
Absolutely.
like these are
Yeah.
5 minutes where I can just
Yeah.
turn everything off and focus on myself, and that feels great as well.
Yeah.
So small little tools. I
I
always say will do things which, like you said, bite size or doable, achievable, realistic, rather than
yeah.
making up this I'll meditate for 2 hour kind of thing, which never happens with us mommies, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think what you said is great in terms of you said skincare, and I think even from skincare stemming to something even more light-hearted is how, as women, we sometimes even enjoy, retail therapy. We enjoy our clothes, we enjoy our makeup, we even enjoy being silly with our kids. Whether we
Yes.
have one, two, three rolling on the floor doing pillow fights, and that's also part of that self-care. And we don't have to be fancy about it. We can sometimes even be basic. So
Absolutely.
that, yeah,
Yeah. I'm so glad that you picked up this topic. I do hope that mommies out there got some insights into how realistic we have to be rather than how fantastic or momtastic we have to be.
yeah, I think what we're struggling with, each one of us, even both the parts are working, and this balance between absolutely asking for help, not feeling guilty at any point, seamlessly going into good sleep routines, whatever they are for each of us, and also not falling prey to anxiety, which is, the environment at this hour around us. Everyone's kind of pressuring you to get into that space for some reason or the other, and this is what we are guarding ourselves against, or rather evolving from, really really toughening up from, and then trying to pass it on to all of our clients. So any parting thoughts and advice you'd like to give to moms?
I do believe that more mommies would accept themselves, love themselves, and see them from the eyes of their children, because children love us unconditionally. And I think we should love ourselves
Absolutely.
unconditionally. So,
Yeah,
one very beautiful thing that I like to do with mommies is, have them visualize how their child sees them and see themselves that way.
it's
And
lovely.
that's
Yeah.
something we want every mommy to do. When they feel guilty, when they've probably done something like not spend enough time or yell at the child or, not
Mm.
been a fantastic mom that day. So just
Yeah.
pause, accept,
Mm.
start again, and it's fine.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. I never thought of it that way. That yes, whatever we do, our children think the world of us. Even if they're angry for 5 minutes, they think the world of us. And that
Fine.
really absolutely. Yeah. The most forgiving, and it's the most indispensable time in your life when your child is growing up. And I think we're all addicted to that time and we all want it back. While we are going through it, we're like, when will this child grow up? And then you're like, I want this back because there's nothing like it.
True. Very true.
So great. I think you've beautifully and seamlessly taken us through all the real issues that are there, right from when a woman conceives to having a growing child of any age. And we are all struggling with these things as mommies at home, part time working mommies, juggling lots and lots of roles, and really fitting into families at this difficult time. So, what you've said pervades everything from the pandemic to our regular lives. And I thank you for doing that. It was beautiful. Thank you
Thank
so much for being here. And I wish you the very best in bringing all your concepts to everyone you're helping right now and really, really helping them imbibe it, making every individual feel that they are enough. We are enough in whatever we are right now.
thank you
So
so
this was thank you so much. So this was our third session in the Heal series, and I'm looking forward to many, many more spectacular talks like this. And next week, just a sneak peek, we have Dr. Meghna, who is also a TEDx speaker and an Ayurveda Acharya. So we'll be looking at discussing some interesting topics on the biology of belief with her. Good night to everyone. Thank you, Dr. Era, for
much.
being here.
Night. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.